Let me just say right off the bat, shared calendars are supposed to be helpful. That's what they tell you in every productivity podcast, right? Sync your lives, streamline your time, improve communication. Sounds great in theory. Except nobody mentions what happens when your wife forgets to hide the lunch date with the guy she secretly sleeps with. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name's Ben. I live in Manhattan. 32 years old. Finance guy. Button-down life, shoe-polish smile, expensive coffee I pretend to enjoy. I live in a two-bedroom high-rise apartment with a skyline view that I used to think meant something, like we were ascending. Like we'd made it. That illusion lasted right up until the Google Calendar betrayed her faster than I ever could have. Her name's Julia. 30, whip-smart, polished to the point of being intimidating, and with the kind of presence that made executive VPs forget they were married. She worked in private equity, and believe me, she reminded you. She was the kind of woman who wore a power suit like armor and read SEC filings like bedtime stories. I met her at a networking mixer, which, if you've never been to one, is basically speed dating with LinkedIn profiles. She was magnetic. And I was, whatever the male version of smitten is when you try not to show it because you're surrounded by finance brothers. 3 months later, we were living together. 18 months after that, we had a joint Amex, a shared Peloton schedule, and yes, a synced Google Calendar, color-coded, and everything. The relationship worked like our careers, high efficiency, goal-oriented, professionally groomed. We were that couple you hate at brunch. Matching moleskins. Perfect credit. Inside jokes about EBITDA. I didn't think she had it in her, the lie, the sneak, the audacity. But then came the calendar entry. It was a Sunday morning in early December. Cold but not freezing. We were on our usual rotation, coffee, bagels, light NPR. Julia said she was going to hit Equinox, then maybe grab a facial if there was an opening at that overpriced spa she liked. I told her I'd knock out some emails and meet her for dinner later. She left. I opened my laptop, started planning my week. That's when I saw it, an event on our shared calendar labeled Offsite Lunch Prospect Meeting. Time blocked from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Location, Cipriani's on 42nd. First thought? Honest mistake. Maybe she added it from her work calendar and forgot to hide it. Maybe she really did have a weekend prospect meeting, some high net worth client passing through the city. I wasn't looking for trouble. But then I saw the guest name. Not listed in the calendar event. No, that would have been too easy. I clicked on the location, pulled up the mapping tab, and saw something weird. The reservation had been made under her personal OpenTable account. How'd I know that? Because we share an email alias for receipts, and when she makes a dinner reservation, it always CCs the shared inbox. And the reservation notes? Private booth, quiet corner. Who books a quiet corner for a prospect meeting? I opened our bank account. Nothing from Cipriani's on our card. But then I had a thought. One of those nagging little spider-leg suspicions that crawl across your neck when something's off but not screaming yet. I checked Venmo. Now let me be clear. I'm not a snooper. I don't go through her phone. I don't track her steps. But this wasn't a trust issue. This was a pattern issue. A break in routine. And if you live in finance long enough, you learn to spot patterns the way snipers spot movement in the distance. Sure enough, there it was. A Venmo transaction from 3:17 p.m. that Sunday. From Julia to a guy named Rob M. Amount, $73.50. Memo, spaghetti clinking glasses shushing face. The spaghetti, the champagne, and the shush emoji. I wish I was kidding. Rob M. I blinked at the name like maybe it would change if I stared long enough. But no, it was who I thought it was. Her boss, Robert Marshall, managing partner at her firm. Married, mid-40s. Looks like the kind of guy who calls women darling in a way that somehow gets away with it. I'd met him twice, once at a holiday mixer and again at their firm's spring retreat. He shook my hand like he was trying to extract something from it. Told me I was a sharp one. I remember thinking the compliment felt like a trap. Like he was mentally measuring me up. Now I was measuring him right back. I clicked on his Venmo profile. Wide open, public transactions like a moron. I started scrolling. Found 4 more payments between him and Julia in the past 6 weeks, all for weird amounts. Not $20 here or $30 there. I'm talking $96.25, $62.90, $112.50. Always with food emojis. Wine. Breadsticks. A damn eggplant once. The paper trail was there. The calendar was the breadcrumb. The Venmo was the forest fire. But still, I needed more. That's where the performance reviews came in. Julia had a folder on our shared cloud, labeled Annual Reviews. I'd helped her format the PDF last year for her manager. Totally above board. She never thought to unlink the folder. Probably forgot it was even shared. I opened the newest file. Dated 2 weeks ago. Title, Julia_2023_evaluation_draft.pdf. It was a glowing review. Pages of praise. Words like indispensable, executive material, uniquely positioned for long-term leadership. Signed at the bottom, R. Marshall. I cross-referenced the date on the file with her messages. Sure enough, she told me that night she was staying late to catch up on portfolio reports. What she was actually doing was getting her boss to ghostwrite a love letter disguised as a promotion pipeline. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why not just confront her? Why not throw the receipts on the table and demand answers like some kind of Netflix husband? Because that's not how you win. Winning isn't yelling. Winning is silence until the moment becomes a stage. And I had a stage in mind. Her firm's annual holiday party. Black tie. Catered. 100 staffers. Clients. HR. The whole glass and steel dream team packed into a penthouse overlooking the East River. I didn't say a word. For 2 more weeks, I smiled. I poured her wine. I talked about holiday plans, let her think she was gliding on ice. Meanwhile, I was assembling a file, a neat, surgically annotated slideshow of dates, payments, receipts, messages, and that glowing review. The last slide? A screen capture of her calendar event labeled Offsite Lunch. Memo line, private booth. Caption below, work-life balance, redefined. I booked a tux, rehearsed the toast, and waited for the right moment to burn the entire illusion to the ground. That party? It was going to be spectacular. I won't lie to you. I felt a little evil. Not mustache twirling, tie someone to a train track evil. Just that cold, crisp, chess master kind of evil where you know exactly what's going to happen 12 moves from now and everyone else is still trying to figure out where the pawns are. It was almost relaxing. Julia, meanwhile, was in full holiday mode, Christmas candles, ugly sweaters, peppermint bark in a jar on the counter like we were auditioning for a Hallmark movie. She was festive, flirty, and just smug enough to make me wonder if she genuinely thought she'd pulled it off. I hope you're dressing sharp for the firm party, she said one night while pouring red wine into a glass she didn't offer to share. It's going to be packed. Big year. Big faces. I nodded. Oh, I'm bringing my A game. She winked at me. God, you clean up so well. Almost makes me want to skip the whole party. Almost. Keyword being almost. She was addicted to the spotlight, and this party was her Met Gala. The company threw it every year in some high-rise glass box of a venue, with catered sushi, signature cocktails, and just enough live jazz to make people think ethics didn't matter when you wore a bow tie. I'd been to 2 already. Same crowd every time. Associates trying to outsmile each other, directors networking like their lives depended on it, and Rob Marshall floating through the room like a crocodile at a country club. This year, though, I had something to bring to the table, or more accurately, to the screen. The week before the party, I finalized the slideshow. I didn't get dramatic. No emojis. No sarcasm. Just facts, stacked clean like bricks in a fireplace. Slide 1. Sunday calendar event. Offsite lunch. Slide 2. The open table receipt. Slide 3. The Venmo transaction. $73.50. Spaghetti clinking glasses shushing face. Slide 4. Rob's Venmo account, with similar transactions. Slide 5. Timeline overlay Julia's whereabouts cross-referenced with payments. Slide 6. The draft of her performance review, signed, R. Marshall. And the final slide? A full-screen text overlay on a black background. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching. Congratulations on your upcoming promotion. Ben. I uploaded it to a secure USB drive. Password protected. Labeled it something harmless. holiday_party_presentation.ptx. Just in case. I wasn't taking chances. Now, here's where things got a little fun. I needed a way to play the slideshow without anyone stopping it. That meant access to the AV setup. Normally, Julia's firm would outsource it, hire some tech crew to handle mics and projectors. But this year, their go-to guy was double booked. Julia had mentioned it in passing. They're having Carl from marketing run the slideshow. God help us. Carl, as it turned out, was more than happy to help when I accidentally emailed him the wrong file. Subject line, Julia's tribute video. She doesn't know about this. Huge surprise, please run this during the closing toast. He replied 15 minutes later. Got it queued up, my man. Should I mute the house jazz for it? I told him yes. Of course, yes. I wanted silence. I wanted eyes. I wanted the kind of air you could carve into slices. The night of the party, I suited up like a man walking into a boardroom he was about to bulldoze. Black tux. Clean shave. Watch polished. I even wore the cufflinks Julia gave me last year, little silver anchors. Funny, in a way. She used to say I kept her grounded. We arrived together. Elevator to the 52nd floor. Step into glass and chrome opulence. Waiters with trays. Velvet drapes. Floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city like a jewel box. People came up to us right away, colleagues, clients, a few VPs who laughed too loud at things that weren't funny. Julia worked the room like a champ. All smiles and double-cheek kisses. She introduced me as her better half, which was ironic on about 7 levels. And then came Robert Marshall. The man, the myth, the emoji connoisseur. Ben, he said, shaking my hand with that same limp-rich guy grip. Always a pleasure. Heard you're killing it over at ShorePoint. I try, I said. You know how it is, keep your head down. Know your numbers, don't sleep with your direct reports. He blinked. Just for a moment. A flicker. Then he chuckled. Right. Work-life balance. A constant challenge. Julia appeared at his side like a magician's assistant. Rob, did you see the drink menu? They named a cocktail after the merger. The Golden Consolidation. She laughed like that was the cleverest thing since the invention of leverage. The night unspooled exactly as I hoped. Speeches, drinks, a raffle, some light back-patting about quarterly growth. And finally, as dessert made the rounds, mini creme brulees and edible gold flakes, the lights dimmed slightly. Carl, the marketing guy, stepped up to the mic. All right, folks, time for a little surprise. One of our own is getting some well-deserved recognition tonight. Julia? Come up here. Julia blinked, surprised. Genuinely surprised. She stood up, did a cute little who, me, face, and made her way to the center of the room. Carl gestured to the projector. I was told this is a private tribute, but I think we all deserve to see what makes a future partner so special. Lights down. Projector on. Slide 1. Silence. Julia's face froze. Rob's did something else entirely. It twitched. Barely. But I caught it. The same way you notice when a poker player adjusts his chips wrong. Slide 2. Receipt. Someone murmured. Softly. Just a little huh. Slide 3. The Venmo. People started glancing. At Julia. At Rob. At me. Slide 4. Multiple payments. Dates. Memos. The eggplant emoji. And then slide 5. Overlay. Calendar. Transaction timestamps. Location data. Matched perfectly. The forensic accountant's version of a body on the floor. Slide 6. The performance review. Big, bold, glowing words. Signed, R. Marshall. The date matched the last dinner transaction. And then the final slide. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching. Congratulations on your upcoming promotion. Ben. No music. No mic drop. Just air. Cold and sharp. Julia didn't move. Not a twitch. Not a blink. Rob looked around like he was trying to locate the fire escape with his eyes. A few people clapped. Then a few more. Then, weirdly, a full ripple of applause. And me? I just raised my glass. To the power of transparency, I said. I turned. Walked out. Didn't wait for explanations. Didn't wait for screaming. I took the elevator down, stepped into the freezing New York night, and breathed like I hadn't in weeks. Outside, a car pulled up. Driver leaned out. Mr. Fenton? That's me. Got in. Didn't look back. Behind me, the party was unraveling. And upstairs, Rob Marshall's legacy was collapsing in real time. What happened next? Well, I didn't go home that night. I had a bag packed and waiting in the car, nothing dramatic, just a weekender with enough clothes and a laptop to make it look like a business trip. If you're going to burn down your life, it helps to have a clean pair of socks on the other side of the fire. My driver didn't ask questions. Just nodded, confirmed the hotel name, and merged onto the FDR like this was any other post-gala getaway. No sirens. No aftermath. Just the calm before the headlines. I watched the skyline in the rearview as we drove. Tower after tower, office after office, all lit like no one ever sleeps in this city. Which, honestly, is probably true. Especially when your boss just got outed for sleeping with one of his employees on PowerPoint, no less. The hotel I booked was across the river in Brooklyn Heights. Quiet, minimalist, and most importantly, off Julia's radar. She and I had never stayed there, never even mentioned it. That mattered. Clean break. I checked in under my own name, because I wasn't hiding, I was moving. There's a difference. Got my key, went upstairs, kicked off my shoes, and sat on the edge of the bed like someone waiting for a storm they knew was already coming. The TV stayed off. I didn't need noise. I needed signal. I opened my laptop and watched the internet light up. Because it did. Fast. Turns out, Carl from marketing didn't just run the slideshow, he also recorded it. On his phone. And he posted it to his Instagram story with the caption, "A masterclass in corporate sabotage." #HolidayToast, he did not just do that. Somebody else filmed it too. Probably 3 or 4 somebodies, judging by the angles. The footage started bouncing around within 20 minutes. Private Slack messages, group chats, text threads with subject lines like, "Yo, you seeing this?" By the time I brushed my teeth, the thing had landed on Twitter. Someone clipped the toast and uploaded it with the caption, "When the husband's smarter than the entire compliance department." It had 80,000 likes in an hour. I didn't even need to post anything myself. The internet did it for me. They pieced it together from context clues, LinkedIn screenshots, company hashtags, and one very enthusiastic event planner who apparently live-tweeted the whole damn party. I watched the breadcrumbs turn into a full-blown dossier. Julia's name, Rob's title, the firm, the time of the party, and the slides. Oh, those glorious slides. Within 12 hours, someone made a Google Doc breaking down each one with commentary like it was an episode of Dateline. And the comments? Phew. Let's just say people were not on Julia's side. Imagine getting caught cheating by a fiscal audit in front of your boss, HR, and a shrimp tower. This man brought Excel to a sword fight. The audacity, the composure, the lighting. 10 out of 10 revenge. But the real fireworks didn't come from Twitter. They came from inside the building. The next morning, I got a call from a blocked number. Normally I ignore those, but I had a feeling. I answered, "Mr. Fenton?" It was someone from the firm. Not HR, someone higher. "Would you be available to speak with us briefly today? There's been considerable fallout." I played it cool. "Is this regarding last night's presentation?" There was a pause, among other things. "Sure," I said. "I'll be in the city this afternoon." We set a time. I hung up, looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't look angry. Didn't look smug, either. Just sharp. Like someone who walked into a war zone and came out without a scratch. I took the meeting at 2 p.m. in a quiet corner of a midtown WeWork where one of the firm's board members had holed up to avoid the press. Her name was Ellen. 60-something. Razor-smart eyes. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I want to be very clear," she said. "What you did last night was outside the bounds of acceptable behavior. You exposed private information in a public setting." I nodded. "Would you prefer I'd send it to the board first?" She narrowed her eyes. "Let's not pretend you weren't trying to make a point." "Oh, I said. A very specific one. And it seems like it landed." Another pause. Then she leaned forward. "We were already conducting a quiet ethics review on Robert Marshall. Your presentation sped that up considerably." I kept my face still. Internally, I was smiling like a shark with a trust fund. "I'm sure you know," she continued, "that sleeping with direct reports is a violation of firm policy. But the fact that he participated in her performance review? That's indefensible. We have a serious liability issue." "Sounds like it. We'll be asking for his resignation. Immediately. Julia's situation will be handled separately." "Understood." She looked at me, evaluating something. "What's your involvement now?" I shrugged. "None. I'm done." I walked out. "I have no interest in dragging it further." "And you have no desire to litigate?" I smiled. "I'm not after money. I just like watching liars lose." She relaxed. Slightly. Then, after a beat, she added, "You've got an impressive grasp of documentation. The way you structured that presentation. You ever consider consulting?" I blinked. "Consulting?" She nodded. "Compliance. Internal review. Risk exposure. We're hiring for that department. Someone who knows where bodies get buried." I didn't say anything for a second. Then I laughed. "You want to offer me a job?" "I want to offer you an opportunity," she said. "Your resume's solid. Your instincts are better. We're cleaning house. You could help us rebuild it." I took the business card. Said I'd think about it. Walked out into the sunlight of a Manhattan afternoon with a firm-wide scandal behind me and a possible job offer in front. Julia called that night. I watched her name blink on the screen for a full minute before I declined the call. She left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it. Whatever she had to say, it wasn't new. It was spin. Damage control. Maybe a weak apology spiked with half-blame and crocodile tears. I'd seen the playbook, and I wasn't opening the cover again. Instead, I called someone else. My boss. I kept it simple. Told you she was trouble, he said after a long pause. Yeah, I replied. But she gave me something I can use. He laughed. You coming in Monday? I'll be in. Might be a little late. Take your time. And Ben. Yeah. Hell of a slide deck. The next morning, I accepted Ellen's offer. Not because I needed the job, but because nothing says moving on like replacing the man who tried to replace you. That. And I really do love a good performance review. 2 parts left. And trust me, we're not done yet. There's something oddly therapeutic about watching a skyscraper fall, metaphorically, of course. The slow, deliberate way it starts to lean. How the people inside don't realize they're about to be neck-deep in rubble until the ground starts buckling under their wingtips. Julia's career was that skyscraper. Rob Marshall was the bad wiring. And I was just the guy who pointed out the smoke before it caught the curtains. Word spread fast after the party. Within 48 hours, Rob Marshall was placed on administrative leave pending review, which is finance speak for, we're firing you, but our lawyers need a few days to clean it up. Julia was temporarily reassigned, though I didn't need an org chart to know what that meant. Her name had gone from bold to gray on the firm's website, one of those small digital purgatories where careers go to die. I hadn't heard from her directly since the voicemail she left after the party. I never listened to it. I didn't need to. I could picture it already. Her voice trying to sound strong, wavering on the edges, the carefully chosen words laced with just enough guilt to imply that maybe I overreacted. That's the thing about manipulators. They don't change their pitch. They just change the narrative. Instead, I got updates secondhand. A buddy in the legal department texted me. Congrats. You just did more for internal accountability in one night than HR's done in 10 years. Followed by, she had to give a statement today. Rob didn't show. Then, a few hours later, her ID badge was deactivated. I read that one twice. Felt nothing. No victory, no thrill, just a clean sort of confirmation, like seeing a package marked delivered after days of waiting. Julia had crossed a line, and now she was seeing the other side. I was already transitioning into the new role Ellen had offered. Risk oversight. Internal ethics review. Official title, Director of Compliance Initiatives. Unofficial title, the guy who can smell bullshit in a zip file. I didn't walk into meetings with fire and brimstone. I didn't need to. My presence alone was a warning shot. And it worked. People paid attention. Spoke cleaner. Watched their steps. A week into the job, I was invited to a private lunch with a few board members. No agenda. Just a soft, get-to-know-you meal at a steakhouse where the cheapest thing on the menu was a $30 wedge salad. One of the board guys, Alan, mid-60s, slick tie, reputation for being both terrifying and charming, leaned across the table and said, "That was one hell of a presentation, Ben." I smirked. Appreciate that. I mean, it was brutal, but precise. You know what the real kicker was? What? That last slide. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching. That line's been bouncing around every department like a damn screensaver. I just nodded. Let him sip his scotch. You know, he continued, most people find out their spouse is cheating, and they implode. You went forensic. That's rare. I shrugged. I don't believe in drama. I believe in documentation. They laughed. The conversation moved on. But Alan's words stuck with me. He was right. Most people implode. They rage. They chase. They text things they regret. I didn't. Not because I'm cold, but because I understood something Julia never did. Losing your temper feels good for 15 minutes. Exposing the truth? That feels good forever. Still, the part no one talks about in these little revenge sagas is what happens after. Like, yeah, the toast was great. The fallout was clean. But now I'm sitting in a new office with glass walls, fielding messages from people who either want to use me or avoid me, and sometimes both. The firm's culture shifted practically overnight. People who used to laugh at HR training sessions were suddenly requesting them. Executives started preemptively disclosing relationships. One guy in marketing even broke up with his girlfriend, just in case someone got the wrong idea about an off-site lunch they'd had. I became the shadow at the boardroom table, the better play it safe voice inside people's heads. Honestly, I didn't mind. I'd rather be respected for precision than liked for silence. Then Julia showed up at my apartment. Unannounced. Uninvited. It was 2 weeks after the party. I'd just gotten home from work, loosened my tie, and was debating whether to order Thai or just microwave leftovers when the buzzer rang. Hello. It's me. I stared at the intercom like it had betrayed me. I just want to talk, she said. I buzzed her in. Not out of sympathy, out of curiosity. I wanted to see what version of herself she'd bring. She looked off. Still polished, sure. Leather coat, makeup done, hair neat. But there was a fragility behind the eyes that hadn't been there before. Like the scaffolding had cracked and no one was sure if the building would hold. I'm not here to fight, she said, stepping inside. I wanted to explain. I didn't offer her a drink. Didn't offer her a seat. Just stood there, arms folded. You got fired, I said. Flat. Her mouth tightened. They said I breached professional boundaries. Damaged the firm's reputation. You did. Rob's gone too. You know. He tried to pin it on me. Said I pursued him. Did you? She flinched. No. But I didn't say no either. I didn't stop it. And I let him out. Write your performance review? She looked down. Yeah. Why? That one hit. She leaned against the wall like the question had weight. I think. I liked feeling powerful. Wanted. I've spent so much of my career trying to compete in a man's world. And here was this man, this powerful man, validating me. Making me feel like I'd arrived. By compromising everything you stood for. She nodded. Yeah. I let the silence hang. I don't expect forgiveness, she said. I just wanted you to hear me say it. I watched her for a beat. Thought about all the tiny decisions that led here, the lies, the cover-ups, the arrogance. Then I said, you weren't the first person to underestimate me, Julia. But you might be the last. She nodded. Fair. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. You know, when you stood up at that party, I really thought you were going to forgive me. I thought that was what the toast was building to. I laughed once. Cold and short. You thought it was a love story. She smiled sadly. Didn't we all? She left. That was the last time I saw her. I didn't chase her. Didn't block her either. Just let her fade. Like a bad investment, I finally wrote off the books. One more part to go. And this ending? Yeah, it's earned. It's funny how quickly people rewrite history when they're no longer in the photo. 3 weeks after Julia walked out of my apartment for the last time, I got a text from an unknown number. No name. No context. Just, still think about you. That was it. No punctuation. No emojis. Just those 5 words hanging there like a fishing line tossed into the dark. I didn't respond. I knew it was her. Who else would think that was an acceptable thing to send after a televised crash and burn? Well, quasi-televised. The firm never made a public statement. Why would they? That's not how Manhattan works. You handle things quietly, with severance packages and airtight NDAs. People vanish from the website. LinkedIn profiles change. The firm continues, shinier than ever. No blood. No mess. Just a new set of rules whispered through cubicles and Slack channels. But for all the silence, the story didn't disappear. Carl's recording of my toast had passed 2 million views on YouTube, and the Reddit threads kept mutating like a virus. The Venmo expose, finance bro revenge arc, bin slideshow of doom. At some point, someone created a Spotify playlist called PowerPoint Revenge Energy and DM'd it to me. It had 37,000 followers. The top track was Billie Eilish's You Should See Me in a Crown. I played it once. Couldn't lie, it slapped. And then, about a month after the holiday party, I got invited to a dinner. Not a date. A meeting. Ellen again. Same boardroom queen who gave me the new job. This time, the venue wasn't a steakhouse. It was a private room in one of those clubs that doesn't have a sign on the door. You don't make a reservation. You know someone. We sat at a table with 2 other partners, one of whom looked like he hadn't worn a suit off the rack since 2003. We're restructuring, Ellen said. New compliance protocols. Full audit of executive interactions. We're also reevaluating promotional procedures. I sipped my whiskey. Waited. We want you to spearhead the internal rollout, she continued. We'll give you a team. Budget. Autonomy. I nodded slowly. You want me to be the firm's conscience. More like its memory, the third partner said. You've proven you know how to spot rot before it spreads. I agreed to the offer. Quietly. Formally. And just like that, I had a new office. Corner view. Real desk. Not a satellite cubicle or a borrowed conference room. A real seat at the table. But the part that stuck with me wasn't the upgrade. It was the message. You destroy corruption, you inherit the ashes. Thing is, I wasn't looking to become some corporate Avenger. I didn't plan any of this. I just followed the data, connected the dots, had the nerve to show the final picture out loud. Most people would have deleted that calendar event. Julia didn't. Most people wouldn't have put the affair on Venmo. Rob did. And most people definitely wouldn't have thought their husband was smart enough to follow the trail from restaurant tips to HR memos. But I was. And now, everybody knew it. Not just people in my building. Not just friends and ex-colleagues and jealous rivals. Everybody. I got emails. Hundreds. Some from journalists who wanted a soundbite. Some from women who, I swear to God, wanted a date. But the ones that meant the most? They came from strangers in quiet pain. My wife's cheating on me, too. Found her messages last week. Didn't know what to do until I saw your video? Your toast? It helped me walk away. Thank you. I didn't think anyone could stay calm in the storm. You gave me hope. And that was unexpected. I didn't think I was giving people anything. I wasn't trying to be an example. I just wanted Julia to see herself the way I did when the blinders came off. I wanted the room to know what it applauded. And I wanted Rob Marshall to feel, for once in his polished, predatory career, what it meant to lose. And he did lose. Hard. Rumor has it, his severance was half what it should have been. Ethics violations, improper influence, failure to disclose interpersonal entanglements, the works. He was done in the finance world. You don't come back from that. Not without changing your name and pretending you've pivoted into consulting. Julia, though? I kept tabs. Quietly. She'd gone dark on social media for a while. Deleted everything. Reappeared weeks later under a private account with a new last name. Not married, just hiding. She'd shaved her job title down to strategic analyst at a boutique firm no one had heard of. One of those hush-hush shops that lets you re-enter the game from the basement, as long as you promise to be invisible for a while. A few people still asked me if I regretted it. Not the act, but the scale, the spectacle, the very public nature of the humiliation. I always gave the same answer. No. I gave her exactly what she earned. Because here's the thing no one wants to admit about betrayal. It's not the act itself that ruins people. It's the entitlement. The belief that they deserve to cheat and still be loved. That they can lie, and you'll absorb it. That they can burn the house down and expect you to hand them a warm coat afterward. Julia thought I'd never walk. Rob thought I'd never fight back. They both mistook kindness for softness. And softness for stupidity. But I'm not soft. I'm deliberate. And I'm done hiding it. So when Ellen's assistant asked if I wanted to give a keynote at the firm's upcoming ethics summit, yes, that's a real thing. I said yes. The theme? Modern transparency, leading in the age of surveillance. Poetic, right? I wrote the speech in a coffee shop on the Upper West Side, sipping overpriced espresso and watching couples pass by, bundled up in the cold, holding hands, probably hiding all kinds of tiny secrets from each other. And I didn't feel cynical. I felt awake. Maybe it takes getting burned to learn how to spot the smoke. Maybe it takes a PowerPoint to show someone what a mirror looks like. Or maybe, just maybe, you have to lose a liar to make space for something better. But that part? That comes next. One final chapter. Let's finish this right. The Ethics Summit was held in early March, same penthouse venue as the holiday party, which felt like poetic symmetry to me. Last time I stood in that room, I was holding a glass of champagne and detonating my relationship in front of 100 people who didn't see it coming. This time, I was holding a wireless mic and a keynote clicker, and everyone in the room knew exactly what I was capable of. And they showed up early. The firm's leadership leaned into the branding hard. Flyers, banners, LinkedIn posts. They didn't name me outright in the promotion. Of course, HR would have a stroke, but the internal memo was crystal clear. Keynote address. A modern case study in personal and professional accountability. Subtle. The crowd was a mix of firm execs, junior staffers, a few outside consultants, and, just for spice, a few members of the press with discreet name tags. I scanned the faces as I walked to the front, each one trying not to look like they were dying to hear what I had to say. I took the stage at 9:04 a.m. Dressed in a dark suit, no tie, clean shave. Calm. Measured. Everything Julia used to say made me presidential. Funny, isn't it? Good morning, I said, tapping the mic once. I'm Ben. You probably know me from a slideshow. Laughter. Tight, but genuine. Let me get something out of the way up front. I didn't ask to be the face of corporate revenge. I didn't wake up one day and think, you know what would make this quarter memorable? Airing out my wife's affair over crudité and performance bonuses. But that's what happened. I paused. The room leaned in. And now we're here. Talking about ethics, transparency, accountability. Words we throw around during annual trainings but rarely use in real life. Click. Slide 1. A black screen with the word lies in white. Let's talk about lies. Not the big, dramatic ones, the kind with burner phones and secret apartments. I mean the small ones. The ones you can color code in a Google Calendar. The ones you split over Venmo with a little wine glass emoji. The lies we tell because we don't think anyone's paying attention. Click. Slide 2. Patterns, emotions. I didn't catch Julia cheating because I was jealous or suspicious. I caught her because I'm a systems guy. I pay attention to patterns. And when those patterns break, that's when you look closer. I talked for 25 minutes about patterns, documentation, the value of digital transparency. I never named her, never mentioned Rob. I didn't need to. Everyone knew. And somehow that made it land harder. Click. Final slide. Don't yell. Document. The applause was loud. Not polite. Not performative. Real. Afterward, I stayed for a Q&A panel. A younger analyst came up to me afterward, maybe mid-20s, nervous as hell. That was incredible, he said. I've never seen someone turn pain into policy like that. Thanks, I said. It's cheaper than therapy. He laughed. Seriously, though. It makes you think. How many things have we missed because no one was looking? Probably more than we'd like to admit. The summit ended with complimentary boxed lunches and an HR rep reminding everyone that interoffice relationships must be disclosed within 72 hours. Subtle dig. Probably directed at a few people in the room. No one made eye contact. That night, I went home. My real home. A new apartment. Different neighborhood. Clean lease, clean walls, clean memories. I'd moved out of the place Julia and I shared about a month ago quietly. No drama. Just handed in the keys, tossed the old couch, and left the memory of her perfume embedded in the closet door frame like it never existed. I didn't take much with me. Just the essentials. Clothes, books, my grandfather's watch. And my laptop. Always my laptop. I poured a glass of whiskey and sat by the window, watching the lights ripple across the East River. My phone buzzed. Text from Ellen. You've officially been nominated for the Internal Ethics Committee. You up for it? I typed back. As long as I don't have to wear a cape. She replied with a laughing emoji. I took a sip. Let the silence stretch. And then I opened Instagram. Not to post. Just to scroll. I didn't follow Julia, of course. But her new account? Yeah, I knew it. Everyone in the industry did. Finance is a small world, and she couldn't stay dark forever. Her latest post was a photo of a coffee cup and a laptop, captioned, "Rebuilding. One day at a time." The comments were mostly generic support. Fire emojis. You got this, girl. The usual. Nothing from Rob. Nothing from anyone connected to the firm. But I noticed something else. She turned off the location tag. Back when we were together, she used to tag every rooftop bar, every hotel, every private jet tarmac like a digital resume. Now, just plain, neutral photos. No breadcrumbs. She'd learned. I didn't like her, but I respected the lesson. People don't change when they're caught. They change when they're exposed. And that's what made it worth it. Not the applause, not the promotion, not the smug Reddit threads or viral videos. What mattered was the reset. The shift. The knowledge that someone, somewhere, would think twice before scheduling a lunch that shouldn't happen. Before signing a glowing review with a lipstick smile. I didn't need closure. I needed distance. And I had it now. One more thing happened. A few days later, I got a package. No sender name. Just a clean envelope in my office mail pile. Inside? A flash drive. One file. Title. For the record. It was the raw footage from the holiday party. Multiple camera angles. Edited clean. Subtitles included. At the end, after the final slide, a fade-in quote. Some men burn bridges. Others build spotlights. No signature. Just a sticky note. Figured you'd want the director's cut. I recognized the handwriting. Carl. I grinned. Plugged it in. Pressed play. And sat back to watch the moment that changed everything again. Not for nostalgia. for the reminder. Because in the end, when someone tries to rewrite your story, the best revenge isn't just telling the truth. It's owning it. Loudly, publicly, and with perfect lighting. The end. Subscribe to the channel